Hello, Chosen One. The darkness has been pressing hard this week because it sees what you can't see yet, the door that's about to open. I know the sheer weight of the spiritual, emotional, and psychological warfare you have been enduring lately has felt almost suffocating. You have been walking through what feels like an invisible, dense fog, where every single step forward requires a monumental expenditure of your vital life force. You have felt a highly coordinated, unexplainable pressure bearing down on your mind, creating a bizarre atmospheric tension in rooms that used to feel incredibly safe. You have watched people you once trusted, people you poured your golden healing energy into, suddenly morph into unrecognizable hostile strangers. You have witnessed the bizarre, synchronized movements of individuals who seem absolutely hell-bent on misunderstanding you, undermining your character, and backing you into a cold, isolated corner. You have asked the universe, in the quiet, agonizing hours of the night, if you made a wrong turn. You have wondered if this heavy, relentless resistance is a sign of your failure. I need you to listen to the absolute, unapologetic truth of your reality right now. You are not failing. This profound friction is not a symptom of your defeat. Transform your current pain into the ultimate, irrefutable evidence of your breakthrough. The enemy, the orchestrators of this elaborate trap, do not expend this astronomical level of frantic, desperate energy on a target that is stagnant. Frame this attack, right here and right now, as the absolute proof of your imminent promotion. The spiritual forces of stagnation only waste this much ammunition on someone who is about to cross the threshold into a completely new dimension of power. They are attacking you because of what is coming. They are terrified of the undeniable authority you are about to step into today, right now, this week. The struggle you are suffocating under is ending within the next 24 hours. This specific cycle of being the misunderstood scapegoat, the designated dumping ground for everyone else's unhealed trauma, is coming to a definitive, crushing halt by the very end of this message. It is ending not because the universe randomly decided to show you mercy, but entirely because of the deep, agonizing, unseen internal work you have silently completed in the shadows. You have fundamentally shifted your internal architecture. You have starved the demons they tried to feed. You have silenced the reactions they desperately tried to provoke. I'm Brian. For decades, I've been writing spiritual content and helping people to achieve real awakening, guiding those who carry a heavy anointing through the treacherous, deeply misunderstood landscapes of spiritual warfare and psychological manipulation. I study the raw mechanics of human behavior, and I translate them so you can finally see the invisible matrix operating behind the curtain of your everyday life. The premise of what is happening to you right now is a masterpiece of divine justice. A network of insecure imitators, jealous onlookers, and highly performative acquaintances formed a silent, energetic consensus against you. They set a psychological snare, waiting for you to walk into it, react, and destroy your own character. But the trap spectacularly backfired. By refusing to play your assigned role, you completely jammed their mechanism. Now the entire group is collapsing, turning on one another and exposing themselves. Before we break down the absolute psychological masterclass of what is happening in their camp right now, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, drop a comment with what point hit you hardest, and share this video. Step 1. Dismantle the pedestal you built for their unearned potential. To truly comprehend the magnitude of the victory that is currently unfolding in your life, you must first perform an emergency psychological surgery on your own empathy. One of the most profound, beautiful, and yet deeply painful vulnerabilities of being a chosen one is your devastating capacity to see the unseen. You possess a spiritual vision that looks past the broken, jagged, incredibly toxic exterior of a person and pierces straight into the buried, frightened child within them. You look at highly flawed, manipulative individuals, and you do not simply see the damage they cause. You see their absolute highest timeline. You see their potential. And because your heart is intrinsically wired for healing, because you are a natural conduit for divine grace, you mistakenly assumed that if you just loved them hard enough, if you just gave them enough chances, if you just absorbed enough of their abuse, you could somehow bridge the massive, cavernous gap between who they currently are and the magnificent being you know they could become. You built a massive, gleaming pedestal entirely out of your own light, placed their potential firmly on top of it, and bowed down to a version of them that simply does not exist in this physical dimension. This is the exact genesis of the trap. They realized very early on that you would continually overlook their glaring red flags, their consistent microaggressive betrayals, and their profound lack of emotional reciprocity, just as long as they offered you tiny, breadcrumb-sized glimpses of vulnerability. They entirely weaponized your hope. They used your steadfast belief in their potential as an unlimited credit card to perpetually fund their toxic behavior without ever having to pay the emotional balance. But you must understand the deep psychological resentment this dynamic creates within a stagnant, highly defensive person. When you treat someone according to a high frequency they actively refuse to embody, your very presence becomes a constant burning interrogation of their cowardice. The contrast here is monumental. You operate from a core of authentic alignment, constantly seeking to refine your spirit, while they operate from a performative facade, constantly seeking to mask their internal decay. They do not feel loved by your grace, they feel exposed by it. Every single time you forgave them, every time you elevated the conversation, you were unintentionally shining a blinding floodlight onto the dark, unhealed corners they desperately wanted to keep hidden. They did not want your healing. They wanted your complicity. They wanted you to jump down into the mud with them and validate their dysfunction so they wouldn't have to feel bad about being dirty. The trap they laid for you was born out of this deeply rooted, agonizing resentment. It takes a monumental amount of effort to climb up to the pedestal you built for them, and they are fundamentally lazy when it comes to their own spiritual evolution. It is far easier to coordinate an effort to drag you down, to break your legs so you have to crawl in the dirt with them, than it is for them to learn how to walk in the light. They are currently melting down because their reliance on a script you have permanently stopped following has left them entirely stranded in reality. The metaphor here is heartbreaking, but absolutely necessary for your liberation. You spent years pouring pure, healing, liquid gold into a cracked, highly toxic, incredibly fragile glass vial. You genuinely believed that the sheer value and purity of the gold would somehow repair the cracks, neutralize the poison, and transform the vessel. But the vessel was never designed to hold your frequency. The intense heat of your pure investment only caused the cracks to spiderweb further, and eventually the glass shattered violently, spilling your precious energy onto the floor while the broken shards attempted to cut your hands. The trap they set was the shattering. They wanted to punish you for daring to pour your value into them and making them feel inadequate by comparison. It is profoundly goofy when you step back and look at it. They actually thought they could contain your infinite spiritual depth within the pathetic limitations of their own insecurity. They tried to capture a roaring, untamed ocean in a cheap, leaky bucket, and now they are absolutely terrified because they are drowning in the overflow. Dismantling this pedestal requires a cold, sobering, and unapologetic grief. It means looking them dead in the face, energetically speaking, and radically accepting that they never actually wanted to heal. They only wanted to use your healing energy to stay comfortably numb in their sickness. You must stop mourning the illusion of who you wanted them to be and fully accept the harsh, grotesque reality of who they have actively chosen to remain. The moment you smash that pedestal, you instantly reclaim your own sovereign agency. You stop watering a dead tree in the middle of a desert, hoping it will suddenly bear magnificent fruit. You pull your belief away from their potential, and in doing so, they instantly lose all of their power over your emotions. They fall flat onto the cold, hard ground of their own mediocrity, stripped of the angelic lighting your empathy constantly provided them. The trap backfired because the moment you withdrew your golden energy, they were left completely empty, suffocating in a reality they can no longer blame you for. Their frantic scrambling is simply the grotesque display of a parasite that has suddenly been separated from its host. Step 2. Recognize the profound fragility of their manufactured consensus. Once you have reclaimed your empathetic energy from their bottomless voids, you must turn your deeply analytical gaze toward the actual architecture of the mob they assembled against you. Notice that the primary instigator, the covert narcissist, or the deeply jealous imitator, did not come at you alone. They never do. They needed a group. They needed a faction. They required a whispered consensus in shadowy group chats, behind-the-back smear campaigns, and a carefully choreographed collective narrative to validate their delusion. Why? Because the psychological and spiritual weight of a chosen one is utterly crushing to an unaligned, performative entity. When a highly toxic person looks at you, they see a flawless floor-to-ceiling mirror reflecting every single aspect of their own wasted potential, their ethical compromises, and their spiritual cowardice. Facing you one-on-one requires a level of internal fortitude and honesty that they simply do not possess. Therefore, they must pool their voids together. They must gather other hollow vessels to create an artificial chorus of validation, desperately trying to convince themselves that if enough people agree that you are the problem, then they do not have to face the terrifying reality of their own internal decay. Contrast your solitary, grounded strength with their frantic, desperate need for collective validation. You are capable of sitting entirely alone in a silent room, wrestling with your deepest shadows, facing your traumas, and emerging aligned with your creator. You do not require an echo chamber to tell you who you are or to justify your existence. Your authentic alignment is an impenetrable fortress built on solid bedrock. Their performative facade, however, is a flimsy, pathetic tent built on the shifting sand of mutual jealousy. It requires constant, exhausting maintenance. It requires the continuous manufacturing of drama, gossip, and shared outrage to keep the group bonded, because a toxic collective has no genuine loyalty. They are not bound by love, shared values, or mutual respect. They are bound exclusively by their shared hatred of your light. They plotted against you with feverish intensity, meticulously constructing a trap designed to humiliate you, isolate you, or force you into a reaction that would absolutely ruin your character in the eyes of the public. They relied entirely on the script of high school social dynamics, believing that isolation would break your spirit. But you must understand the absolute psychological inevitability of an alliance built purely on the foundation of a shared target. A group bonded only by their mutual disdain for your elevation has absolutely zero internal structural integrity. Their connection is entirely parasitic, completely dependent on your reaction to keep their bond glued together. When you stepped back, when you retreated into your silent power, and let them have their delusions without offering a single word of defense, you removed the essential keystone from their pathetic little archway. You starved them of the common enemy they desperately needed to distract themselves from their own miserable company. Now, watch exactly what happens. Without you there to absorb their collective venom, that venom has absolutely nowhere to go but inward. The artificial consensus is violently shattering. The followers, who were intellectually lazy and preferred the comfort of the mob over the burden of individual critical thought, are starting to realize they backed the wrong horse. The instigator is frantically melting down because their manufactured army is refusing to march. Trying to maintain this dynamic is exactly like a group of arrogant arsonists who tried to contain a raging forest fire with a wet paper bag, only to realize the wind has violently shifted and the flames are now aggressively engulfing their own homes. The paranoia is setting in thick and heavy. The very same people who conspired against you are now looking at each other across the table, wondering what the others are saying behind their backs, because they know exactly how ruthlessly and easily this game is played. They are currently cannibalizing each other in real time. The trust among them is completely eradicated. The betrayer will always be betrayed by their own kind. The liar will always be deceived by the company they keep. They built a massive house of cards on the quicksand of their own deceit, and the gravity of truth is finally pulling it all down into the abyss. It is deeply, fundamentally goofy to watch grown adults operate with the emotional intelligence of malicious toddlers, genuinely believing the universe would reward their treachery. You do not need to lift a single finger, speak a single word in your defense, or orchestrate any form of retaliation. You simply need to stand completely still and observe the structural collapse of a group dynamic that was inherently doomed from the exact moment they decided to make a divine calling their enemy. Step 3. Sever the energetic umbilical cord to their scripted reality. For a very long time, you existed within the suffocating, claustrophobic confines of a script they aggressively wrote for you. Toxic families, narcissistic social circles, and deeply insecure colleagues operate much like a dilapidated, decaying theater troupe. In order for their profoundly dysfunctional play to continue making sense, everyone in their orbit must play their assigned role perfectly. The insecure leader plays the savior or the righteous victim, the enablers play the loyal, unquestioning chorus, and you, the chosen one, were cast as the designated scapegoat. You were assigned the role of the crazy one, the emotionally unstable failure who constantly needed to be fixed, put in check, or entirely blamed for the group's internal chaos. They handed you this script and aggressively demanded that you read your lines. And for years, because of your deeply ingrained trauma responses and your genuine desire for peace, you probably did. You defended yourself when they hurled baseless accusations. You tried to logically explain your heart when they intentionally misunderstood you. You over-communicated, over-apologized, and overextended your soul, trying to prove your innocence to people who were utterly, fundamentally committed to your guilt. What you must realize with crystal clarity right now is the massive contrast between your internal architecture and their external performance. Your entire identity is anchored in an unshakable, self-generating alignment with source energy. You are authentic in the dark when nobody is watching. Their entire false identity, their entire delusion of superiority is inextricably tethered to your subordination. They literally do not know who they are if you are not the villain of their ongoing story. Their ego structure requires your absolute compliance, but the trap spectacularly backfired the exact moment you woke up, dropped their toxic script on the floor, and simply walked off their stage. You severed the emotional umbilical cord to their manufactured reality. You stopped justifying your perfectly reasonable boundaries. You stopped translating your massive, expansive soul into a tiny, restricted language that their low-vibrational minds could comprehend. And this singular act of non-compliance has sent them into an absolute, terrifying tailspin of cognitive dissonance. They are glitching because their entire psychological safety net relied on your predictable reaction. The physical anxiety they are experiencing right now is staggering because the silence you are giving them is not just a temporary ceasefire. It is a complete and total withdrawal of your energetic investment. They are frantic and melting down because the one person they relied on to carry their emotional garbage has permanently closed the landfill. Imagine a highly dramatic, mediocre actor standing on a brightly lit stage, screaming their lines with profound, vein-popping intensity, desperately waiting for their co-star to deliver the counter-dialogue, only to slowly realize they are shouting at an empty wooden chair. That is the exact psychological state of your enemies right now. They are furiously attempting to provoke you, trying to bait you with passive-aggressive public posts, sending flying monkeys to test your perimeter, and throwing subtle jabs into the ether, desperately hoping you will pick the script back up and validate their existence. It is the equivalent of trying to catch a massive, roaring bolt of lightning in a cheap plastic cup. The cup simply melts in their hands, leaving them burned, bewildered, and profoundly embarrassed. The goofy nature of their behavior is on full display as they loudly complain about boundaries they themselves violated. By refusing to engage, you are forcing them to experience the unbearable, deafening silence of their own unhealed trauma. You are no longer acting as the designated dumping ground for their projected shame. Without you there to carry their heavy emotional garbage, the horrific stench of their own unresolved issues is literally choking them out in their own homes. The severing of this cord is your ultimate, uncompromising liberation. You withdrew the currency of your emotional reaction, which is the only money accepted in their bankrupt economy. When you stop paying them with your anger, your tears, and your frantic defenses, they are left with nothing but their own profound inadequacy. The total lockdown of your emotional borders is the exact mechanism that is currently driving them completely out of their minds. You didn't just stop talking to them, you completely stopped caring, and that is a level of detachment their fragile egos cannot survive. Step 4. Decode the desperate, frantic mimicry of their spiritual imposter syndrome. There is a distinct, deeply unsettling, yet almost comical phenomenon that occurs when the enemies of a chosen one realize their grip on you is slipping away forever. Because they fundamentally lack any genuine internal source of identity, because they are utterly void of original substance, they resort to spiritual and psychological plagiarism. You will start to notice that as they plot against you, as they simultaneously watch you walk away in unbothered peace, they will begin to frantically mimic you. It is the most bizarre, goofy, and desperate form of spiritual identity theft. They will suddenly start using your specific, highly nuanced vocabulary. They will entirely co-opt your aesthetic and personal style. They will start preaching the very boundary-setting concepts and healing methodologies you desperately tried to teach them years ago, weaponizing the language of therapy to paint themselves as the enlightened victims of your supposed toxicity. They want the profound anointing that rests so naturally on your life, but they are absolutely terrified of the crushing, agonizing press required to produce the oil. Observe the sheer panic of their performance right now and deeply analyze the contrast between your authentic alignment and their hollow charade. You operate from a place of deep subterranean resonance. Your wisdom was forged in the absolute darkest nights of the soul, where you faced your demons and emerged victorious. Your light is a natural byproduct of your internal architecture. They, conversely, are pasting a facade over a rotting foundation. They are incredibly loud, chaotic, and desperately seeking a validating audience for their newfound enlightenment. They are posting relentlessly on social media, gathering crowds of equally shallow people, and trying to orchestrate a grand, visual spectacle to prove to the world just how happy, healed, and unbothered they are without you. But a highly tuned spiritual ear can hear the deafening, horrific dissonance vibrating beneath their noise. It is all a frantic, exhausting overcompensation. Their piece is highly curated, mathematically calculated to elicit a reaction from you, or to convince their own fragile egos that they haven't made the biggest, most catastrophic mistake of their entire lives. The psychological toll of maintaining this mimicry is utterly devastating for them. They are completely obsessed with a script that no longer has a lead actor, haunting their own lives with the ghost of your influence. The deep psychology of their meltdown is rooted in the inescapable terror of imposter syndrome. When you pretend to be something you are not, the universe invariably applies pressure to test the structural integrity of your claim. Because they have zero actual internal support, the pressure is currently crushing them. It is the metaphorical equivalent of pasting a handful of cheap plastic pigeon feathers onto the scales of a cold-blooded lizard and loudly declaring to the sky that it is a soaring eagle. It falls directly into the uncanny valley. It looks almost human, almost genuine from a distance, but up close there is a distinct, deeply unsettling emptiness behind the eyes. Everyone around them, even those who aren't spiritually awakened, can sense the absolute cringe of their performance. The vibration is fundamentally off. The performance is draining every single ounce of their vital life force, causing them to age rapidly under the stress of their own lies. Your true power lies in your silent, grounded, entirely unshakable peace. You do not need to post 1,000 times a day to prove you are authentic, because authenticity requires absolutely no effort. It simply exists as your natural state of being. While they are sweating profusely through their stolen costumes, burning themselves out trying to maintain the illusion of victory, you are sitting quietly in the undeniable truth, completely untouched by their theatrical meltdown. Their frantic mimicry is not an insult you need to defend yourself against. It is the absolute highest form of terrified submission. It is their subconscious desperately admitting to the reality that you possess a divine frequency they can never buy, steal, manipulate, or manufacture. The absolute humiliation of being caught in the uncanny valley of mimicry is their current punishment. Let them wear your old clothes. The universe knows exactly who the true sovereign is, and the counterfeit is rapidly expiring. Step 5. Acknowledge the energetic boomerang of their weaponized projection. We must dive into the deepest, most uncomfortable layer of this psychological and spiritual dynamic, the absolute law of projection and cosmic reciprocity. When deeply broken people are entirely disconnected from their divine source, when they are festering in their own toxic secrets, betrayals, and deep-seated feelings of worthlessness, the internal pressure of that darkness becomes entirely intolerable. The human psyche simply cannot sustain that level of internal corruption without finding a release valve. That release valve is projection. They look at you, a soul striving for purity, alignment, and truth, and they violently vomit their own internal demons onto your clean garments. Every single bizarre accusation they have leveled against you, every twisted, sinister motive they have assigned to your actions, every malicious rumor they have desperately tried to spread, is not actually about you at all. It is a terrifyingly accurate, hyper-specific confession of exactly what they are doing in the dark. Throwing the mud is an act of twisted self-soothing for the narcissist. The contrast between your energetic boundaries and their malicious output is vital to understand. You utilize your energy to construct, to heal, to ascend, and to fortify your internal sanctuary. They utilize their energy as a weapon of mass distraction, attempting to drag your high frequency down into the subterranean trenches where they comfortably reside. The trap they set was specifically designed to force you to carry the crushing, suffocating weight of their own sins. If they could successfully convince the world that you are the manipulative one, the toxic one, the deceptive one, then they could briefly, pathetically pretend they are the righteous, innocent victims. But there is an immutable, uncompromising spiritual physics at play in the universe. Whatever malicious, unearned energy is projected toward a deeply aligned, divinely protected chosen one will invariably hit an invisible, impenetrable auric shield and bounce back to the sender, magnified exponentially by the force of its own momentum. This is the ancient truth of cosmic justice. The deep psychology of why they are frantically melting down right now is directly tethered to the horrifying realization that their weapons have turned against them. The massive, treacherous pit they spent months meticulously digging for you in the dark is the exact pit they have currently fallen into head first, and the walls are entirely too steep for them to climb out. They relied on a script where you absorbed the blow, but because you stepped entirely out of the way, gravity took over. Think of it like a group of people standing at the base of a magnificent, roaring, pure waterfall, frantically scooping up handfuls of toxic, contaminated mud and throwing it upward at the cascading water. They genuinely, delusionally want to stain the water, to make the waterfall as filthy as the ground they are standing on. But the sheer volume, force, and absolute purity of the water simply catches the mud and washes it immediately back down, completely drenching the throwers in their own filth. The harder they throw, the dirtier they become. You are the waterfall. You do not have to fight the mud. You just have to keep flowing. The malice they weaponized against you was simply too heavy for their own hollow souls to carry, and the universe is making sure it crushes them. Psychologically, this manifests as an absolute, terrifying loss of control in their own lives. Have you noticed how the people who plot against you seem to suddenly experience catastrophic failures in areas of their life that have absolutely nothing to do with you? Their finances dry up, their seemingly perfect relationships publicly unravel, their hidden embarrassments are dragged into the daylight. They begin to suffer physical manifestations of the boomerang effect: loss of sleep, rapid aging, constant anxiety, and a complete inability to find peace. This is the energetic boomerang. The universe is actively exposing them by simply allowing their own actions to naturally run their course without you interrupting the process. The goofy arrogance required to think they could curse what the divine has blessed is now their total undoing. The trap they designed to bury you was actually the permanent cocoon they built for their own profound stagnation. Step 6. Relinquish the agonizing burden of being their psychological mirror. For far too long, you have agonized, stressed, and lost entirely too much sleep over why these people harbored such intense, seemingly unprovoked, and highly coordinated animosity toward you. You have sat in your room, replaying conversations from years ago, overanalyzing your actions, your tone of voice, your text messages, and contorting yourself into an emotional pretzel, trying to find the exact moment you supposedly wronged them to justify their coordinated attack. You have desperately searched for the logical reason why a whole group of people would suddenly decide that you are the villain. You must violently, permanently rip this false, guilt-ridden narrative out of your mind right this exact second. You did absolutely nothing to them, except exist in a state of authentic, uncompromising alignment. Your mere presence, your joy, your healing, and your light was the ultimate trigger that completely shattered their deepest, most closely guarded insecurities. The profound, uncomfortable psychological truth you must understand, the raw reality that cuts through all the superficial drama, is that to a person living in a state of performative stagnation, an individual exhibiting genuine continuous growth is not viewed as an inspiration. They are experienced as a devastating, aggressive psychological mirror. The contrast is sheer agony for them. You possess a dynamic, ever-expanding internal architecture, completely willing to undergo the agonizing fires of transformation. They are rigidly stuck in a static, heavily defended facade, terrified of any authentic introspection. Every single time you spoke your authentic truth, it acted as a blazing spotlight highlighting their chronic, lifelong dishonesty. Every time you bravely set a boundary and protected your peace, it illuminated their pathetic, miserable lack of self-respect. Every time you took a bold, terrifying step into the unknown to pursue your divine calling, it cast a glaring, inescapable light on their cowardly refusal to ever leave their tiny, suffocating comfort zone. You became the walking, breathing, physical representation of absolutely everything they were too terrified, too lazy, or too prideful to become. They did not attack you because you were flawed, toxic, or broken. They attacked you because your brilliant light was physically burning their eyes. The trap they laid for you, the elaborate smear campaigns, the coordinated character assassinations, the group mockery, the subtle sabotage, was a desperate, frantic, animalistic attempt to smash the mirror so they would not have to look at their own repulsive reflections for one more second. They are melting down right now because their reliance on the script of your destruction has failed. They genuinely believed that if they could destroy your reputation, if they could make you look crazy, unstable and unhinged to the rest of the world, then the reflection in the mirror would finally match the ugliness inside of their own hearts. But here is the magnificent irony, the goofy, almost slapstick comedy of their demonic, low-vibrational behavior. You absolutely cannot destroy a massive mirror by throwing a violent tantrum without getting completely covered in the sharp, bloody shards of glass yourself. Imagine a feral, rabid dog barking furiously at its own reflection in a pristine glass door, eventually ramming its head into the glass, completely unaware that it is only fighting itself. In their desperate, coordinated attempt to shatter your reputation and break your spirit, they completely exposed their own unhinged, obsessive, and deeply troubled nature to the entire world. They thought they were exposing your flaws to the community, but they were actually broadcasting their own intense jealousy, their profound emotional instability, and their absolute obsession with you. You must completely, unapologetically release the heavy burden of trying to fix them, trying to make them understand your heart, or trying to prove your innocence to a jury entirely composed of your executioners. Let them bleed from the glass they actively chose to break. Release the mirror, walk away from the broken glass, and let them obsess over the empty frame. Step 7. Step unapologetically into the magnificent void their cosmic eviction created. We have finally arrived at the ultimate, most crucial dynamic of this entire profound and agonizing experience. The trap has completely collapsed. The performative alliances have shattered into a million unrecoverable pieces. The goofy, desperate mimicry has been exposed for the hollow, pathetic theater that it is. The boomerang of cosmic justice has fully handled the debt of their malice, and the toxic ecosystem is actively devouring itself. The heavy lifting, the tear-soaked nights of profound confusion, the suffocating spiritual warfare, it is officially behind you. The darkness that was pressing so incredibly hard against your spirit has completely exhausted its ammunition and is now utterly powerless. This brings us back to the unbreakable promise I made at the very beginning. The pressure is lifting right now because the door that the enemy was frantically trying to keep you from seeing is finally, completely, and undeniably open. This final step requires a radical, permanent shift in your internal posture. The contrast you must fully embody is the massive difference between your unhindered, rapidly accelerating abundance and their suffocating, scarcity-driven panic. For so long, your precious energy has been consumed by the sheer mechanics of survival, by the absolute necessity of healing from the deep, jagged lacerations inflicted by those you mistakenly trusted. You have been looking backward, meticulously analyzing the betrayal, trying to understand the deeply broken, unfathomable psychology of people who actively chose to be your enemies. But the time for analysis is absolutely over. You cannot carry the rotting corpse of their dysfunction through the pristine threshold of your new season. You must entirely drop the analytical magnifying glass and pick up the heavy, glorious mantle of your immense calling. You must realize that every single ounce of the betrayal, the coordinated smear campaign, and the staggering isolation was actually rigorous, elite-level divine resistance training. The universe does not hand monumental authority, profound influence, or massive generational blessings to untested individuals. The psychology of their meltdown is compounded by the terrifying realization that their attacks only made you stronger. They thought they were burying you, but they merely planted you in highly fertile soil. Their orchestrated departure was a brutal, painful, but absolutely necessary gift. They maliciously thought they were isolating you, starving you of essential resources, and cutting you off from the community. But in the grand mathematical calculus of your destiny, they were actually acting as unwitting, unpaid cosmic janitors. They were doing the dirty, necessary work of clearing out the dead wood from your life. Think of a massive, ancient oak tree that has just survived a terrifying, violent hurricane. While the shallow-rooted weeds and the parasitic vines were entirely ripped away and destroyed by the wind, the intense friction of the storm forced the oak's roots to dig exponentially deeper into the bedrock. The storm did not destroy the oak. It cleared the entire canopy so the oak could receive the full, unhindered blast of the sun. You must now aggressively, unapologetically step into the massive void they left behind. Do not, under any circumstances, look back. Do not cross the quarantine line to check on their collapse. Do not scour their social media from fake accounts to watch them fall one by one. Do not ask mutual friends for updates on their misery. Their demise, their infighting, and their karmic retribution is absolutely none of your business anymore. Your rapid, breathtaking ascension is your only mandate. The brutal clearing of your path, the painful severing of these ties, is the absolute, undeniable physical proof that the massive door is opening for you right now. The vacuum of space they left behind is about to be filled with the heavy golden gravity of your true destiny. The people who abandoned you were the parasitic underbrush actively draining your energy. Their cosmic eviction is the greatest blessing you could have ever received. Step into the void, claim your territory, solidify your posture for the unprecedented promotion that is arriving this week. Let us zoom out and look at the absolute grand architecture of everything you have miraculously survived. This intense, agonizing chapter was never truly about the petty gossip, the fabricated lies, or the deeply insecure people who hurt you. They were merely the temporary, disposable, low-level instruments used to force you into a state of total, uncompromising self-mastery. The real target of the enemy was always your alignment. The darkness wanted to sever your vertical connection to the divine by pulling you into a horizontal frequency of bitterness, revenge, and perpetual victimhood. But they failed entirely. You do not need a single ounce of revenge because your relentless, quiet, unstoppable growth is the most devastating retribution you could ever inflict upon a consciousness that desperately wanted you to fail. Your authentic, unbothered, brilliantly shining life is the final verdict. They must now live the rest of their natural lives watching you soar from the very cages they locked themselves inside. Do not allow the lingering ghost of their malice to occupy even a single square inch of your magnificent future. You have done the internal work. You have starved the parasite. You have dismantled the false pedestals. You have relinquished the broken mirrors, and you have permanently severed the toxic cords. You survived the trap, and by surviving it, you shattered it into a million unrecoverable pieces. If this deep dive resonated with the absolute core of your spirit, if it gave you the exact, precise words to describe the invisible war you have been fighting and winning, I need you to subscribe to the channel right now. Hit the like button to seal this high frequency into your reality. Drop a comment with what point hit you hardest today, and share this video with someone who is silently drowning in a battle they don't know how to articulate. Keep moving forward, keep ascending, and as always, stay chosen, stay blessed.